All right, I just found the problem, right? Do you hear me now? Awkward delay. Awesome. Okay, welcome to the newest session of Academic Crisis Line. Today we're going to talk about how to manage your supervisor. And managing your supervisor is a very crucial skill you have to develop during your PhD. For the ones who stream in for the first live session today, it works as following. I'm going to talk about the topic and you can ask questions right away or at the end. Mind you, there's a slight delay between me talking and you hearing me due to the live stream. So yeah, I can't actually jump on your question because you actually hear me like a minute later or so. In order to ask questions, you can either use the YouTube live chat function on the right side hand of the window. You can tweet to my question account at phdial. If neither of the two options work for you and you want to stay anonymous, you can also write me an email. Please make sure your questions are short in your email so that I can actually read and talk about it without losing too much time. All right, so the role of your supervisor during your PhD is to provide you with an environment in which you can thrive and become an independent researcher and to guide you on the way to do so. So rule number one for all supervisors is you have to be open and talk about things right away and not wait until things go bad. So the few cases in which I've seen the relationship between a supervisor and a student to become very catastrophic and eventually also led to maybe not finishing the PhD, often started with people not talking about problems and addressing issues and not clarifying expectations towards the relationship. The relationship with your supervisor is not only the one you have with the boss in a working environment, it is much more a relationship in which you have a mentor, but also mind you that this mentor also is a person, and we academics don't actually get much of a, we don't get trained to supervise. This is something we pick up on the way, and often your own supervisor is the only person you have to draw upon as an example. And if this is a great supervisor, you have a great example. And if it's not, you have to develop all these skills on the go. The second rule for supervisors is their job is to make you independent and not to help you with everything on the way. They should provide you and guide you so that you can actually solve your problems yourself and you can pick up all the skills on the way. So while it is very painful to often receive harsh critique, they always have your best interests in mind and they're trying to work with this. And the other rule is always be proactive. Supervisors are typically super busy people, and you also have to keep in mind that this is not your friend, but you have still a professional relationship with each other. Your supervisor expects you to be prepared for meetings and to proactively contribute to the relationship between the two of you. So, in order to get along with your supervisor, it is important to understand what type of supervisor your supervisor is and to build upon strengths and find strategies to deal with the weaknesses. A good idea, especially at the beginning of your trajectory as a PhD student or also as a postdoc, is to talk with your advisor how they envision your relationship with each other and what kind of supervision style and interaction they prefer. Often they will tell you what their expectations are regarding frequency of meetings or emails and updates and how they want to stay in the loop. Also, even though you might talk about this at the beginning of your project, this is not written in stone. And when you feel it's not working in this way, there's always room to renegotiate this deal. Now we're talking about different types of supervisors and their weaknesses and the problems you are likely going to encounter with them, and strategies which I either learned from other people or strategies I learned myself. in order to deal with them. So we're not actually going to talk about like all the great skills of supervisors because they are easy to deal with. We're going to talk about the difficult skills. My least favorite type of supervisor of all is the micromanager. The micromanager is a control freak who is very worried that you are not competent enough, or that also that you're too independent, so that they lose control over the project. Their supervision style is likely to make you feel incompetent, immature, and it will produce a lot of insecurity from your side. The most important goal in your relation with the supervisor is to build trust. And you get trust by actually constantly keeping them in the loop and be very proactive about always sending updates and set up meetings, and be very proactive in constantly reporting progress of the project and also problems you might have to talk about. So keep them constantly updated and keep them in the loop. It takes a lot of time, but it will keep them off your back. It's also very important with these type of supervisors that you're very tidy and clear in everything you're writing and everything you're presenting. So when you send them something, don't send them half-crafted versions which are very messy. This is going to make them feel even more insecure and that they have to take more control. So be very clear and tidy, and also point out where you need feedback on. And if you have meetings with them, be very clear and ask them questions how they imagine things would work out. It's also very important with this type of supervisor to set boundaries. If this person is bothering you a lot and like stressing you during the work time, like it's very important to say, okay, I actually cannot answer emails after 8 p.m. until the next morning. I can't answer emails during the weekends. And also, like when they like to talk about work constantly during your lunch break and everything, it's just a good idea to suggest, oh, I was just going to write you an email about this after lunch, and maybe we can meet later this week and discuss very focused about this. So don't give them the feeling that they are losing control over the situation, and constantly build upon the trust relationship between the two of you. And the worst you can do with the supervisor is keep them out of the loop and ignoring them for a while. The next supervisor is also not necessarily an easy one to deal with, but I have a slight preference for them. And Nikolai just asked a question about this, and this is the super talent. The super talent is usually a very academic who is very successful at the beginning of their career, and is a superstar in their field and is extremely good in what they're doing. The problem with them is because they are so genius in their own ways, it's sometimes very difficult for them to understand that not everybody can pick up new skills and understanding of complex situations in the speed and ease they have. So for them, it's really important. With them, it's very important to not be shy to ask questions if you don't understand something, and to clarify the plan and the trajectory of the project, and how you think they envision the progress of the project. So the other problem with the supervisor is that they often assume that they are the only competent person. And it's very difficult not to undersell yourself in such a relation and to become self-confident and actually develop the skills to be independent, because you have this very intimidating superstar in front of you with whom you sometimes with whom you have to compare yourself. So also, these people mainly care about their own goals, and this is often legacy or how they want to push for new methods or for new development in the field. And this is great because it offers a lot of opportunities for you to establish yourself alongside with them. The most important goal of your relationship with this supervisor is to build up respect. So one way to build respect is to first be very open about what you don't understand and ask questions so that you don't run into misunderstandings, because they don't take this very well. Another thing is you also have to keep them constantly in the loop. Not as much as with the micromanager, but you also constantly have to update them. And just try to become their buddy and like try to get on their mission. You will benefit a lot from them. Also, these people are not good at giving very empathetic feedback often. So take everything they say to you and every feedback you get with a pinch of salt. If even the slightest appraisal they give you, like take this for what it is, and this is huge. They might only say 2 nice things to you during your entire PhD, but these are the biggest things. And when they don't have critique about you, this is also a large compliment, and you have to take it as such. And if they send you very harsh critique, you also have to take it at what it is. And this is their best attempt at guiding you and trying to make the project better and helping you to address some issues and problems. And you might have to develop some venting strategies and compensation strategies to deal with the frustration with this. But it's really worth just being open for the critique and dealing with it. So actually in 2 weeks during this live session, we're going to talk about rejection and frustration. And then we're going to talk about some possible strategies, how to deal with this person, these people. So even though while being trying to help them accomplish their mission and becoming their basically a person on their team and running for it, it's also very important that you stay independent enough and have your own opinions so that you don't run into being their sidekick. You really don't want to be their sidekick because you cannot shine brighter than a super talent and you will always be in the shadows. So also, the super talent will actually appreciate and acknowledge when you have your own opinion and will respect you for this. They might challenge you for it and they might not agree with you, but this is totally fine with these people. So don't be shy once you actually have an opinion and you feel confident about having one. Also, don't be afraid to just say it and contribute to the project. You will get respect for this. The other thing with the super talent is that the super talent also is often an extremely busy person and has very, very little time and is traveling a lot. So my suggestion for the little time you can actually spend with this person is to use meetings as efficiently as possible and be very open about it. And if you are not able to manage to get enough meetings and supervision from this person, the way you're working together, maybe you can switch to Skype meetings or Google Hangouts, where you can just have very brief meetings in between to check up the most important things and clarify things. So this is something which could work. Another supervisor, which can be problematic, even though on first sight it might not look like it, is the best friend, the BFF or the parent. So first, when you encounter such a supervisor, you might think you have hit the jackpot because they're very caring, they're very nice, they give you a lot of compliments and they feel super sweet and supportive. But don't get too cozy because the difficulty with the supervisor is actually to get them to give you honest and open feedback. And you will need this feedback in order to get better and to finish your projects. The other thing is this person is very understanding when you start missing a lot of deadlines. But this is not in your best interest. So be sure that you manage the supervisor in a way that first you get the feedback and the supervision you need, but also that you get very strict routines so that you can still deliver on time. So same for the supervisor, take everything they say with a grain of salt because they might be overly nice and they want you to like them. They want probably everybody to like them and they're not very confrontative. This does not mean that they like everything and that you can also hold them up to all the promises they make. So I think the best strategy to deal with these people is be very frank about how much you would appreciate open feedback and their critical input, and how much this would be in your best interest. They really have your best interest in mind, but sometimes it's important to tell them that you're not too fragile to hear some critique and that you actually would be very appreciative of this. So The other thing is, if these people, if you get these people to trust you enough and not worry about opening up and telling you their honest opinion, it is also critical to listen to them and take it very serious. Otherwise, they're not going to tell you the truth anymore. And lastly, because of the deadlines, you have to start developing strategies for yourself to hold yourself accountable for your progress of the projects. So make very strict deadlines. You can ask your supervisor to help you achieving this and be stricter on this. But this is mainly in your hands. Also, if you have concerns and encounter trouble, share them very openly and ask for guidance and advice. And I think this is what I have to say to this type of supervisor. I don't really have a lot of experience with them. So somebody else might have different strategies. Another supervisor, which is not easy to work with, but you can also take a lot from him, is what I call the reviewer number 2 supervisor. The reviewer 2 supervisor is extremely good at pointing out all flaws and issues with your work, your personality, your working style, and everything else. The problem is, while they were extremely good at analyzing everything you're doing and you're saying or writing, they are sometimes not very helpful at addressing these issues in order to find solutions. So they are not necessarily good advisors. They are extremely good critiques. So what is very important with them is to focus on solutions and to try to get an external opinion in if you can't actually get him to help you finding a solution. Because you might be extremely lost in your PhD and they are addressing all the problems you have, but if they can't guide you to a solution, you will need somebody else on your team. And it's totally fine to have somebody else on your team. So discuss this with your supervisor, whether you can have a postdoc or another senior researcher or a professor who is co-supervising your project, who is engaged in a project and can actually help you finding solutions. And then the critique from this person is extremely helpful and useful. So unless all this critique addressing is halting your progress and project, this is actually really, really helpful to address. And you are going to have a much easier time to publish your papers because all of the flaws have already been pointed out and you're prepared for everything. So yeah, the ultimate goal with the supervisor is to keep your projects moving forward and to manage him or her in a way that it doesn't stop the progress. Also, when you have discussions with this person in situations where they point out a lot of problems or where they don't like what you're doing, it's very easy to get into very confrontative discussions about issues and problems. And there it's really, really important to stay very rational and focus on solutions rather than focusing on problems. And you are likely going to pick 1 or 2 fights with these type of supervisors, and then it's also a good idea to have an external person on board who can actually help moving forward in these situations. And another thing which can happen with the supervisors, and this is just a warning, if other people are addressing problems in your work, this person is also likely to let you down in public. So be prepared, be strong, and stand behind your project. The next supervisor, who is not an easy supervisor to deal with, is the rock star or the superstar. These are typically academics who are often present in public outreach or in the media. They write a lot of blogs, like me. I'm not a superstar though. And they are never shy to give their opinion. So they often also carry an entire crowd of students around with them, their fan groups, and they are very charismatic. And their charisma was part of the reason why they are in the position they are now. So with this supervisor, it is very important not to get into competition, because they're not going to like this and you're going to lose this. And you can learn a lot from these supervisors. These supervisors are amazing at networking, and you can benefit from the network throughout your entire career. Eventually, once you are going towards the end of your PhD, it is very important to distance yourself from this type of supervisors a bit, so that you're not standing in the shadows all the time. It is critical with these sorts of people who are very popular and also talking in a very broad and sometimes bold sense about their science. It's very important to stay very critical of your own work still. And sorry, I just was distracted by a live chat message. It's very important still to not get your research sloppy and to focus on doing very proper science, because this easily slips when you're in a spotlight and your research is presented. And also, while your research is going well, this person is going to be your best ambassador and is going to sell your research, and you're going to be very, very popular. It might be problematic when your research is actually not going so well, because then this person is addicted to success, so they don't really want to have unsuccessful projects, and they might neglect you a bit and not be the best. Also, with these type of supervisors, it's a very good idea to establish yourself a sort of mentoring network at your institute. This can be other PhD students, postdocs, or other professors. Maybe you have people who are working on similar projects with whom you can regularly meet and address critiques and solutions in the work and present regularly. So while this person is great for your career planning, they might not be the best supervisor or give you the best guidance. So make sure you get your supervision somewhere else and benefit from the network. The last supervisor type, which is difficult to manage until you understand how they work, is the busy bee. These are people who are extremely busy. Often they actually do the job of 10 people. They are directors, they're full professors, they're teaching, they do hundreds of things on the sides. And they technically don't have time to supervise students, and they are also often very aware of it. The good thing is that they are very, very open when you are very professional and you are addressing these problems in a different way. So it is really important to know that these people usually hate meetings and emails, especially if they're inefficient. So you have to make your emails and your meetings with them as efficient as possible, and use every opportunity to pick their brain. And by this, I don't mean run after them and bother them. But if you have a lab meeting, present as often as you can about your research and your projects, so that during this time, you actually can get feedback from that person. And the few meetings you have, never go there unprepared. You have your full agenda of questions you want to have answered and you want to have addressed, and decisions which have to be made for you. This person is going to appreciate you so much for actually making their life easy. This is your job. If you have a super busy bee supervisor, your job as a PhD student is to make their life easier supervising you and actually making it possible in the first place. So be very proactive. You schedule the meetings, you prepare everything, and you are bringing the agenda to the meetings and send them everything. And it's also very important to set these people deadlines. They have to be reasonable, but if you have to have something done within a week, you have to tell them. Also, communication. Busy bees don't have time to schmooze and small talk and be nice. Even though they might be nice and interesting people, they don't have time for this. So instead of writing their email, hey, how was your vacation? Did you like the conference? You're just writing them, I need a decision. I have this question. Can you answer this? I need a response in 2 days. And ideally, this is a yes/no question. If it's a super busy person who really doesn't care so much about formality, you can also already write your question in the subject line of your email, and then they just write you yes and no. This is a way to actually get them to respond very fast. Or you can already write emails they have to send for you for them. And you just CC them and then they write confirm, period. Suddenly you have all your organizational and administrative trouble solved. Just don't expect them to engage in all the social formalities because they don't have time for this. Also, for meetings, emails, and every interaction, the shorter, the better. So make sure to make this very efficient. Also, these people are usually very understanding if you tell them that you need more guidance and advice and that you would like to have an additional person on your committee or an additional person on your supervising round. So yeah, just talk with them about this, that you would like to have a daily or a regular supervisor, and whose people, like maybe you can already suggest a list of people you would like to work with and ask them whether they would be willing to. And this is usually something which is very welcome. So don't worry about this. So now, this is what I had to say about the supervision types and or the different types of problematic supervisors. But the truth is, most supervisors are a combination of this. And many of them also have very, very helpful supervision and leading styles. And you will have to find strategies yourself. So, and also, while you can work a lot and address a lot of issues, also be aware that if things go terribly wrong and there's no way you can solve the trouble with your supervisors, this is also possible to just switch supervisors eventually. And almost all institutes have procedures in place to actually take care of you switching your supervisor and doing something else. So yeah, don't worry about this. This is also a possibility, and you're not bound to this person forever, and your career is not ruined if it doesn't work out. The earlier in your PhD, the better, but it is possible at every point in time. It is just really important to play this fair and be very open about this, and not to get personal. It's very important in conflicts to keep the person separate from the conflicts you have in working together. All right. Yeah, as I said, academics never actually get trained to supervise and lead. So this is something we all have to work on, and we all have to pick up on the way. And you have as much responsibility for your supervision as your supervisor does. So I'm quickly going to skim the questions I got. Teaching opportunities. So if you are having a supervisor who does not teach, I think it's always a good idea to talk about options and possibilities. First with your supervisor, if they are willing to let you do this, but also just to see what your institute can provide. Especially if you're a postdoc or so, or also with multiple PhD students and there are no teaching opportunities at your institute, you can also maybe suggest one of the affiliated universities to give a one-semester course or a summer school. A lot of supervisors will be opposed to you teaching too much when you have a main research job because it takes a lot of time. But if you can argue that you're doing this in a group and with multiple people together and you're only taking one session, it's a whole different story. Or if you're just going to give one workshop at a summer school. So there are possibilities also outside the normal university setting. And I think it's a good idea just to explore and see what is present and also talk to the graduate school. That's a lovely question. How do you manage old school supervisors who are not very appreciative of science outreach activities? I think this really depends how your supervisor approaches this. So what many people worry is that their science looks not serious in public if you post this on social media and do a lot of things online. And also a lot worried that it just takes too much time. So if you want to write a blog or you want to do online seminars or like a radio show like I do, it's a good idea to talk about, you still have to run this by and clarify. Maybe you have to do this in your free time, but it's also very important to restrict the time you actually commit to doing this. So I think you shouldn't spend more than 2 hours a week on doing these things on average. So as for this blog, for example, I promised myself not to spend more than 1 hour per week on this. So far, it worked out quite well. The beginning was a bit more busy, but my boss had a good understanding of this. But most people were really worried when I suggested this idea that this mainly eats up too much time from my research time. And this is, of course, unfavorable and not desirable. So, yeah. The other thing is also just pointing out how helpful this is and how much use you make of these things yourself. So one of the reasons why I started with this blog was that during my PhD, Andy's brain blog for fMRI analysis was an extremely helpful resource. And I was so appreciative of people sharing their expertise and skill and putting this online accessible for a lot of people. So I think this saved a lot of time for my supervisors also by me just doing this and watching these videos. So that they don't have to teach me and that I could easily Google problems. So depending on what you want to do, there are very different strategies how to talk about this. And yeah, especially in the European Union, public outreach of this type is also just a very important funding issue. So the European Council of Research has now this section since a few years that you really have to show how you're actually giving something back in the tax dollars or tax money you receive. And there are many opportunities you could engage in public outreach, but I do think that the online tools are actually the most efficient and the least time-consuming ones because you reach a much wider audience with much less work. So always think like a manager with your supervisors, like they have interest in publishing a lot of papers and managing time and output efficiently. So always think about when you argue about these things, like how beneficial and where it would be beneficial for them and their institute, and of course for yourself. So, and if you have good arguments for this, I doubt most people would still oppose it. They might be worried about the control they have over this and what you're going to say in public with your affiliation and your name on it, and then also, of course, always linked to them. Yeah, this is something you can address together, what are no-goes to talk about and what would be appropriate, and maybe you can just practice a dummy session or two with them together. So how to make sure your supervisors facilitate your research and publishing career? It's a bit of a funny question, like shouldn't this be their main job and motivation? I do think that your supervisors have the best interests and the most interest in you publishing a lot of things, and your success is their success. So I do think that it is in their utmost interest that you publish as much and as high quality as possible, and with the name on it. So it's not clear to me how this would work otherwise, that they see you as a research minion. So I don't really know how to answer this question in a better way. Maybe you can clarify. Until the delay is taken care of, I want to point out that in 2 weeks, on December 19th, I'm going to have 2 very lovely guests in this live blog, and we're going to talk about rejection and frustration. And these are things which we all encounter a lot during an academic career, especially in the beginning. And we're going to talk about strategies, how to deal with this, and how to still be productive and don't let all these things pull you down. In the new year, we are going to talk about a lot of more projects. Under this video, there is a link where you can vote for new and upcoming projects. If things don't change drastically within the next 4 weeks, we're most likely going to talk about, give an intro about linear mixed effect models and how to use them to analyze your data. And it's going to be addressing for beginners, so that everybody has an easy introduction into linear mixed effect models. And we're also going to use a free data set of my own research, which you can use to practice this. So please vote, press the link, and tell me what you want to hear about. Also, you can always email me feedback or give me new ideas. You can also suggest new ideas in the second part of the questionnaire to vote for topics. And all is anonymous, so I have no idea who you are. And you can participate as often as you wish. Okay, so back to the question, how to deal with publications and how to facilitate that supervisors actually push your career and push you to publish a lot and maybe not to be on every paper. I think a good idea is to balance your time well for all the projects you're doing with your PI. And these always have the priority. So whatever projects you're doing with your PI have priority. This does not mean that you can't have side projects, and it's a good idea to have side projects with people who are not on your supervision team to actually establish yourself as an independent researcher. So I think side projects or collaborations or data sharing with other people and working together with other labs is a great opportunity to publish this. And the way you can sell this to your supervisor if they're not happy with this or are very worried is first to have a very clear plan of how much time and effort you actually are going to invest in this project and what will be on your shoulders and what on the others. If this is very clear structured, it's much more graspable how much of your own time is going to go away from the other projects. And another thing is, you're also not building your own network, you're also building theirs. So if they have a collaboration with another lab, they are actually also building their network. So whether they are on the paper or not, you might actually help them establish long-term collaborations. And this is how you should also sell it to them. Again, even though these are your supervisors and you have this maybe idealistic picture of them, they're also people with their own agendas. And it is very important to negotiate these things out because your agendas might not 100% overlap and be compatible with each other. So if you want to give them away a little bit of your time they are paying for, it's also important to give them something back. And to always think about this like a business deal. So if they give you the freedom, you're going to deliver on something else in time, and also just prove them that your projects are not going to suffer from doing other things, but that they're actually going to benefit. And yeah, I think this is what I would do. I've never been in this situation that any of my supervisors was discouraging me from publishing and working with others. It was mostly more my time restrictions and the feasibility of my research projects, which hindered potential collaborations, but certainly never my supervisors. So I'm very grateful for never having been in this situation. But if I would be in a situation where I would have to negotiate this is probably what I would do. Like trying to balance the costs and the gains, and try to sell this in a way that there are mutual gains for both me, my career, and my career, and my supervisor and his or her career. So this is your last chance to ask questions for now, and everything else will have to be discussed in one of the later sessions here. So take this time. Oh wait, I got something on Twitter. So Twitter does not have any questions left for me. Do you have more? Otherwise, I'm wishing you all a beautiful St. Nicholas night or Sinterklaas night. We are going to see each other hopefully in 2 weeks when we're talking about rejection and frustration. Enjoy the mulled wine in the Christmas time, and talk to you soon. And thanks for tuning in.